There's a quiet kind of guilt no one prepares you for. It doesn't come from hurting someone. It doesn't come from betrayal or cruelty. It comes from growing and looking around one day to realize you don't quite fit where you used to. You still care. You still remember the laughter, the closeness, the shared history, but something feels different now, and you can't explain it without sounding ungrateful or distant. So you carry it silently, this strange ache of loving people and still feeling like you're slowly moving away from them. At first, the shift is almost unnoticeable. Conversations that once lit you up now leave you quiet on the inside. The topics repeat. The energy feels familiar, but no longer nourishing. You laugh, but it feels slightly delayed, like you're playing a role you used to know by heart. You start sensing that you're changing in ways you can't fully describe. Your thoughts go deeper. Your priorities rearrange themselves. Things that once felt urgent now feel small, and things you once ignored now feel essential. Nothing dramatic happens. No fight. No fallout. Just a subtle internal distance that grows inch by inch. That's when the questions begin. You sit with a feeling you can't name and wonder if something is wrong with you. Am I changing too much? You ask yourself quietly. Why do I feel this way when nothing bad has happened? You replay interactions in your head, searching for a moment you might have caused the shift. You notice yourself shrinking your excitement, downplaying your progress, editing your thoughts so no one feels uncomfortable. Not because you think you're better, but because you don't want to lose anyone. And beneath all of it is guilt. Heavy, confusing guilt, as if your personal growth is somehow an act of disloyalty. The truth, though, is gentler than your guilt allows you to believe. What you're experiencing is a natural psychological transition that happens when your inner world expands faster than your environment. You're not rejecting people. You're redefining yourself. As you become more aware of your needs, your patterns, your limits, your tolerance changes. You start noticing emotional loops you once normalized. You feel the weight of conversations that revolve around problems no one wants to solve. Awareness creates separation, not because you want it to, but because you can no longer unknow what you now see. And when the version of you that forms certain bonds begins to evolve, the dynamic built around that version struggles to stay the same. Still, understanding that doesn't make it painless. Growth carries a cost that people rarely talk about. It can feel lonely. Even when your life is improving, you miss the ease of old connections, the comfort of being fully understood without explaining yourself. You feel distance where there used to be closeness. Your identity shifts, and with it, your sense of belonging. There's a quiet grief for the version of yourself that fit effortlessly into those spaces. Grief for shared futures that will never unfold the way you once imagined. It's a loss without a clear ending, and that ambiguity makes it harder to mourn. But guilt tells a misleading story. It whispers that you are leaving people behind, that you should try harder to stay the same, that loyalty means never outgrowing the place you started. In reality, what's happening isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. You are choosing honesty over comfort, alignment over familiarity. You're no longer abandoning your own needs just to preserve a dynamic that no longer supports who you're becoming. That doesn't make you selfish, it makes you awake. Some relationships were built around shared struggles, shared limitations, shared versions of yourselves that existed at a specific time. When you step into a new version, not every connection can adapt. Not because anyone is bad, but because not every bond is designed to stretch. Even so, another fear waits quietly beneath the guilt. What if this leaves me alone? When familiar relationships loosen, the future feels uncertain. You don't yet have a full circle of people who reflect who you are now. And the in-between space feels empty. The mind tries to convince you that it would be safer to go back, to shrink again, to be the person everyone recognizes. But shrinking creates a different kind of loneliness. The kind where you're surrounded by people and still feel unseen. The discomfort of growth is visible. The discomfort of self-abandonment hides, but it erodes you from the inside. This in-between stage is one of the most emotionally demanding parts of evolution. You don't fully belong to your past, and you haven't fully arrived in your future. You float between identities, between circles, between versions of yourself. It can feel isolating, but it's also a transition space, a quiet corridor between who you were and who you are becoming. The guilt you feel here isn't proof you're doing something wrong. It's the emotional residue of caring deeply while changing anyway. It means you have empathy. It means you didn't walk away lightly. But caring does not require you to stay where you no longer grow. Over time, something soft begins to replace the sharp edge of guilt. Not indifference, not coldness. Something quieter. Acceptance. You start to see that loving people doesn't always mean walking the same path. You can appreciate what you shared without forcing it to remain the same. You can hold memories with warmth while allowing the present to shift. Some relationships will evolve into something gentler, less frequent but still meaningful. Others will fade completely, and that will hurt, but it won't make you wrong. Paths diverge, not as punishment, but as part of life's design. As this understanding settles, you begin to trust yourself a little more. You stop apologizing internally for your growth. You let conversations be what they are without forcing depth where it no longer flows. You allow distance to exist without dramatizing it. The guilt doesn't vanish overnight, but it softens into something human. A reminder that you loved, that you cared, that change matters to you. And instead of using it as a reason to shrink, you let it be a sign of your emotional depth. You didn't outgrow others to hurt them. You grew because something inside you asked for more truth, more alignment, more honesty. That request deserves to be honored. You can wish people well from afar. You can remember them with gratitude. You can let your life expand without turning your heart cold. Growth will always change who walks beside you, but it will also bring you closer to yourself. And learning to stay loyal to who you are becoming, even when it's uncomfortable, is not something to feel guilty about. It is something to carry with quiet respect